Hello everyone and welcome to this exam question walkthrough for Pevensey Castle, the AQA Historic Environment. Now, historic environment questions tend to have either a causation focus, a change continuity focus, or a consequence focus. Now, this video is going to look at a causation focus question. Now, the historic environment is assessed as a 16-mark essay question, and here's the question we're going to take a look at. The main reason for the success of the Norman invasion was the choice of an effective landing site. How far does your study of Pevensey Castle support this statement? And it's worth, as we've seen, 16 marks. So what you need to do for this essay is you need to use some really good relevant knowledge, use well-selected evidence, key facts, avoid just describing. You need to use that evidence of knowledge of the actual historic environment site. So you need to be really focused on Pevensey Castle and the surrounding area because that is part of the historic site environment. You need to analyse the importance of a factor, and then you need to link factors together and then compare their importance within your essay, finishing up with a judgment where you need to judge which is the most important factor. So we're going to look at our little plan for this now, and we're going to think about this triangle shape, which is an essay style that many people use. So our first factor is going to be agreeing that it was the choice of an effective landing site, and we're going to look at all sorts of different reasons for that. In our second factor, we're going to look at William's preparations, but we're going to link that into how he prepared to land at Pevensey, because we're going to need to keep the focus in our answer on Pevensey throughout. A third factor could be looking at Harold's weaknesses, but again, we're going to want to link that to Pevensey, thinking about its geographic location, etc. Our final paragraph is going to be a conclusion where we're going to weigh up and we're going to judge which is the most important factor. So let's have a look at this answer in a little bit more depth. So this would be a plan. So we've got three factors here. So when we're looking at the effective landing site of Pevensey, we're going to talk about the fact that it had a Roman fort, a sheltered harbour, shallow beaches, a Roman road, only 90 sea miles to Normandy. In terms of William's preparations, we're really going to focus in on ship design and going to link that to how important that connects with Pevensey. But we can also talk about the Pope's support, the Holy Roman Emperor, and how he gets Norman lords on side, how he prepares his armies. We can then look at Harold's weaknesses and leaving the coast, including Pevensey, undefended, because as we see there, we need to make sure that our answer is really focused on Pevensey. So we're going to talk about him disbanding his army, the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and leaving the coast undefended. And we can even maybe bring in other factors, a little bit like luck in here as well. So here is an example answer, and all throughout we need to use good knowledge, have analysis, and link to the question. So if we were agreeing that it was an effective landing site, we're going to have a paragraph that looks something like that. I agree that the choice of Pevensey as a landing site was a major reason for Norman success in 1066. William selected Pevensey and its surrounding area because of its key features. It was only 90 sea miles from Normandy and less well defended than Dover or Sandwich, making it easier to land forces there. Its geographical features made it ideal for landing a large force. The sheltered harbour offered protection from the channel winds. In addition, shallow beaches allowed soldiers and horses to disembark safely. Crucially, the existing Roman fort provided immediate defence, and the Normans quickly built a wooden castle to strengthen their position. Pevensey's location on a spit of land and surrounding marshes gave natural protection, while the Roman road enabled rapid movement inland. Nearby farmland supplied essential food for the army due to the barley, wheat, and vegetables that were grown and been harvested. These advantages of Pevensey meant that William could land securely, establish a strong base, and prepare for Hastings. This demonstrates that the landing site was not just helpful, but critical to Norman success, outweighing other contributory factors. Now that we've done an agree paragraph and we've got some really good analysis in there, we're going to then look at an alternative argument. So we're now going to disagree, but our central argument here is going to be around William's preparations, but how he prepared specifically to land at Pevensey, because that means we're still going to be writing about Pevensey within our answers. However, in some ways I would disagree. For example, it could be argued that William's preparations to land at Pevensey were equally important. William was well prepared and brought an incredible 700 ships to transport around 6,000 soldiers and 3,000 war horses to England. This was done by using the Skúldalev design of boat, which was a Viking-inspired boat which enabled horses to be transported. These boats were perfectly suited to the shallow beaches of Pevensey. In addition, the Normans brought with them the wood required to quickly make a castle. This enabled William to fully take advantage of Pevensey having an existing Roman fortification. The fact that the castle, built within old Roman fortifications, was built in just one day is evidence of the importance of William's preparations for making the most of Pevensey. William also ensured he had the support of the Pope by getting a papal banner by promising to reform the English Church. This would have helped morale and made it less likely other European powers would stop him from invading. Therefore, William's preparations were crucial for the success of the Norman invasion at Pevensey, allowing him to take advantage of Pevensey's features. So as we've seen in that example answer, the key thing to do here is to really sort of link William's preparations into how he perfectly prepared to make the most of Pevensey as a natural site. So Skúldalev boats, perfectly prepared to land at Pevensey, bringing the flat pack wood, for example, allowed him to land at Pevensey and quickly build the fortifications inside that existing Roman fort. So he was able to take advantage of Pevensey's feature through his great preparations. Okay, so our last argument is going to focus on Harold's weaknesses, but other ways of doing this might be to look at the sort of bad luck that Harold faced as well. In addition, it could be argued that the main reason for the success of the Norman invasion was Harold Godwinson's weaknesses and also an element of bad luck for Harold. Harold had prepared well, but by September he had his troops on standby for 4 months, with the Isle of Wight garrisoned by soldiers who were looking out for the invasion. By early September, they had run out of supplies and food. This meant that Harold disbanded his soldiers. In addition, Harold's defence of the south coast was weakened by him having to go north to fight at Stamford Bridge. Although Harold won this battle, some of his best fighters died and he failed to reward his soldiers properly with the plunder of war, meaning some soldiers left. If Harold had been able to keep his soldiers on the south coast and not had to fight the Vikings, then it is likely the landing at Pevensey would have been defended by the Saxons. The Saxons themselves could have taken advantage of Pevensey's features, such as using the Roman fortification. This shows that the choice of an effective landing site at Pevensey was only successful because the Normans were able to take advantage of Harold's weaknesses and also his bad luck. This shows that the choice of an effective landing at Pevensey was not the only crucial factor and was conditional on Harold's weaknesses. So our key argument here is that, had Harold been there defending the south coast, that the advantage of Pevensey would not have been as strong. And another element that you could actually bring in here, which I haven't mentioned in these answers, is this sort of sense that the monks at Fécamp Abbey might have been spying out for William and might have let him know when Harold had left for the north and left the south coast undefended, and that might have been crucial in terms of William's timing. So we could actually bring that into William's preparations as well as being a key factor. So there's lots of things at play here that you can bring in from your knowledge of the historic site environment. Okay, now you're going to want a conclusion to get into the top marks. It's really important to have a good conclusion. So here is an example answer for a conclusion. Now, there's some good historical language here that you can use to write a good conclusion. But here's an example one. In the final analysis, it is clear that the main reason for the success of the Norman invasion was the choice of an effective landing site. Despite the fact that William's preparations and Harold's weaknesses were contributory factors, neither would have been decisive without an effective landing site. It is apparent that Pevensey Castle was a perfect landing site. It had a unique combination of geographical features, like a sheltered natural harbour and shallow beaches that enabled a successful landing. What's more, this could be done safely, quickly, and enable the Normans to defend their position well, due to the fact that Pevensey had Roman fortifications. The sheer number of advantages of Pevensey underlines its critical importance to the success of the Norman invasion. So we've got a very clear, rounded up opinion there, being aware of other points of view, but really bringing it to a rounded conclusion. And that's what you need to do to have a really, really cracking conclusion in your answers. Okay, so thanks for listening to that AQA Historic Environment Exam walkthrough. Hope you enjoyed that and good luck with your exams.